The way you see yourself shapes the way love shows up in your life. If you believe love isn't meant for you, your experiences start reflecting that. If you believe you're unlovable, your mind always looks for proof that you are. Not because herpes controls your life, but because the limiting beliefs you have after a diagnosis quietly influence how you show up, how you interpret situations, and what you expect before anything even happens. It's true that not everyone is going to want to date you. And that's real whether you have herpes or not. But if you believe that no one will, you start moving through the world like love isn't meant for you. And that belief starts shaping your reality as a whole. So today, I'm going to walk you through how limiting beliefs about love form after a herpes diagnosis, how they shape your experiences, and what you can do to change the version of love you believe is available to you. Hi, I'm Dupree, and I help people to navigate life with herpes. This episode is part 3 of the Shift Your Mindset About Herpes series. In part 2, we talked about how your thoughts become things and how the thoughts don't just pass through your mind, they stick in your subconscious. They influence how you feel, how you see yourself, and how you interpret your life. Today, we're building on that by focusing on the beliefs that shape your love life. Because after diagnosis, a lot of people don't just struggle with fear. They pick up limiting beliefs about relationships without even realizing it. And if you don't learn how to work through those beliefs, they start deciding your future for you. Limiting beliefs don't just show up out of the blue. They form slowly over time and usually during moments when you're scared, overwhelmed, or trying to make sense of your diagnosis. Thoughts like, "No one will want me now," might start off as fear, but when you constantly tell yourself things like that over and over again, it's no longer just a thought. It also becomes your truth. So when you tell yourself things like, "My dating life is over," "I'll never find love," "I'll never be intimate again," or "I can only date people with herpes now," those statements don't just pass through your mind and then go away. They start shaping what you believe is available to you, what feels realistic, and what you feel is off the table now. And once your beliefs start to take hold, they don't just stay in your head. They start showing up in real ways. They show up in how open you allow yourself to be, how guarded you feel in connections, and whether you expect things to work or to fall apart, even before they start. Listen, beliefs don't just shape how you feel. They drive the choices you make, and those choices create your reality. This is especially true after a herpes diagnosis. When you believe your diagnosis defines you, you don't just feel bad about yourself. You stop putting yourself out there. You stop dating, and you stop taking chances. Not because you don't want love, but because dating can feel both fearful and exhausting. You get tired of rejection, tired of explaining your situation over and over again, and tired of feeling like you have to brace yourself for the worst every time you open up. I felt this way all the time. After my diagnosis, I got to the point where I thought, what's the friggin' point? Why should I keep trying if it's going to end the same way all the time? So I gave up on dating and finding love entirely and convinced myself that I was going to be single for the rest of my life. But here's what I failed to realize. What I thought was self-protection from rejection and fear of the unknown was actually not protecting me at all. Why? Because I allowed other people's reactions to control how I felt about myself. And I allowed every no to become a reflection of my worth. And because of that, I made choices from those beliefs. I avoided or pushed away anyone who showed interest, and over time, that choice kept me single. Not because love was impossible, but because I decided to give up entirely. And that's when the concept of you create your own reality finally kicked in for me. And look, creating your reality is not about wishing harder or thinking positively, and then something magically shows up in your life. It's about understanding that your beliefs drive your behavior and the choices that ultimately create what you want to experience, not what someone else's reaction convinces you that you're limited to. Dr. Wayne Dyer said it perfectly when he wrote, "If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change." That doesn't mean the world suddenly bends to your will. It actually means that you start making different choices based on what you want, not based on what you're afraid of. Now, here's what most people overlook when they're trying to understand why love feels harder after their diagnosis. It's not just what you believe, and it's not just the choices that you make. It's the emotional state those beliefs and choices leave you living in. After a herpes diagnosis, a lot of people don't just change what they believe about love. They change the emotional state they live in. They move through life guarded, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Not because they want to feel that way, but because when you believe love isn't safe or possible anymore, your body gets stuck in defense mode. And when you're living in that emotional state, you don't show up the same way. You're not open, you're not relaxed, and you're not available for connection. Not intentionally, just energetically. And this is where people don't connect the dots. You say that you want love, but if you're constantly tense, withdrawn, or waiting for things to fall apart, that's what you're leading with. And people respond to that, not because they're judging you, but because connection is felt energetically. It's not just spoken. Dr. Joe Dispenza explains that the moment you change your emotional state, you change your energy, and that changes what you experience. In other words, if you're living in a constant state of self-protection, fear, emotional shutdown, that's the place you're moving through life from. That's the energy and vibration you bring into conversations, dates, and relationships, whether you're aware of it or not. Let me ask you this. Have you ever had days where you weren't replaying your diagnosis in your head? Days where you weren't questioning your worth or thinking about how to tell someone about your condition? You were just present, going on with your life and just doing what you needed to do. On those days, you weren't tense, you weren't closed off, or looking for rejection. You were just being you. And when you were being yourself, connection felt more natural, right? Well, that emotional state matters because when you're constantly living in fear, shame, or self-protection, love feels really far away. Not because it actually is, but because you're disconnected from the part of you that can actually receive it. That doesn't mean you have to be happy all the time or pretend that everything is fine. It just means that you become aware of the emotional state you're living in. Fear creates contraction. Calm creates openness. Self-respect creates steadiness, and the emotional place you're coming from influences what you notice, how you interpret situations, and how people experience you. This is why creating your reality in love isn't just about beliefs or choices alone. It's about the emotional space those beliefs and choices create inside of you. Because you can't live in defense mode all day and expect intimacy to feel safe at night. And you can't constantly tell yourself you're broken and then wonder why connection feels so hard. You don't get to control who accepts you. You don't get to control who stays or goes. But you do get to choose the emotional state you're coming from. And when you stop blocking yourself emotionally, connection with others starts to feel possible again. Creating your reality isn't something you think about once and forget. It's something you build and reinforce over time. And before we wrap up this episode, I want to walk you through 3 things that you can put into practice to start opening the door to love again and change how it shows up in your life. Number 1, notice what you're rehearsing in your mind about love. Most people rehearse rejection without realizing it. They replay how disclosure could go wrong, or they imagine someone pulling away, shutting down, or deciding it's too much before anything even has a chance to unfold. So, here's what I'd like you to do. For the next few days, start paying attention to the thoughts you've been repeating about love and dating. Then ask yourself this one simple question. If this thought became true, would I be okay living in that reality? If the answer is no, that's your signal to interrupt it. Not by pretending everything's fine, but by choosing a thought that keeps you jumping straight into the worst case scenario. So instead of, this isn't going to work, try, I don't know how this will turn out, but I trust myself to handle whatever comes next. That shift doesn't change the outcome, but it does change you in the moment. And that changes how you show up, how open you are, and how connected you feel to yourself and others. Number 2, get honest about what you actually want in love. Most people say they want love, but they never slow down enough to define what that really means for them. So here's what I suggest you do. Take out a notebook or get a journal and write this at the top of the page. The kind of relationship I want to create. Then start writing. This isn't about building a fantasy or listing surface level traits. It's about what you want to experience when you're in an ideal relationship. When I did this, I wrote things like, I want to feel accepted exactly as I am. I want to feel safe being vulnerable and honest. I want emotional closeness and real connection. I want to feel chosen, respected, and at ease. Because those were things that mattered to me. The point of this exercise is to focus on how you want to feel in a relationship, not just what you want to have, and that matters. Because feelings drive behavior. When you get clear on how you want to feel, you naturally start making choices that align with that feeling. You communicate differently. You notice different people. And you stop entertaining situations that don't match what you wrote down. Over time, that clarity shifts your energy, your expectations, and how you show up in dating and relationships. You're no longer trying to fit yourself into whatever shows up. You're responding from a place of self-respect and intention. And that's how creating your reality actually works. Not by forcing outcomes, but by aligning your inner world with the kind of connection you truly are ready for and deserve. Number 3, visualize what you want and how you want to feel. I want to share something I did to call love into my life. Now, many of you are going to think this sounds ridiculous or a tad bit crazy, but before I met my partner and the love of my life, I get into bed, look at the empty space next to me, and quietly say out loud, I know you're out there. I can't wait to meet you. I'll see you soon, and I love you. After I said that, I'd laid back, I'd close my eyes before falling asleep, and I would picture what it would be like to be in that loving relationship and also what it would feel like too. And guess what happened? About a year later, I met him at a meditation group. Now, at the time, I had no idea that he was my person, but we started talking, and at first we became friends. And eventually we started dating, and we've been together ever since. Not only that, he literally embodies all the things that I truly wanted in a partner. The things that I wrote down on my list, and I kid you not. And I didn't do this from a place of desperation. I did it from a place of knowing what I wanted and what I felt was truly possible for me. And most importantly, I believed it to be true already. I created my desired reality in my mind. I changed my beliefs and love literally showed up. So here's how you can try this in your own way. Before you fall asleep, close your eyes and picture or sense yourself in a relationship where you feel accepted and loved. Notice how your body feels in that version of your life. Don't worry about faces or details. Just focus again on how you want to feel. Maybe it's calm, warmth, safety, connection, happiness, or joy. Stay there for a minute or two or longer if you'd like. You're not asking for anything. You're just allowing your mind and your nervous system to experience what a beautiful connection feels like. And here's why this works. Because your brain doesn't fully distinguish between something you vividly imagine and something you actually experience. Dr. Joe Dispenza also teaches us that when you mentally rehearse an experience and pair it with emotion, your brain begins wiring itself as if that future is already real. That's why visualization is so important. Because when your mind believes love is possible, your inner world begins to change. And once that happens, your outer world has no choice but to catch up to that belief and reflect it back to you. This episode is about one simple, powerful truth. The way you think about love after diagnosis doesn't just affect how you feel, it quietly shapes what you allow, what you expect, and what you believe is possible for you. When you start noticing the stories you're rehearsing, get clear on how you want love to feel and allow your mind and your body to experience that possibility, something changes. First, your inner world, and over time, your outer world follows. Love doesn't just show up because you force it or chase it. It shows up when you stop telling yourself it isn't available to you. And when you believe love is possible, your life starts to reflect that belief without you trying to make it happen. Well, that's all I have for today. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If you haven't subscribed yet, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on audio, be sure to do that so that you don't miss future episodes, especially the ones in this series. Also, if you're tired of navigating your condition alone, come join us at Herpes Wellness. Membership gives you access to a private online community with forums where you can ask questions, make friends, find love, and get support from people who truly get what you're going through. If you want support on the go, then you can download the Herpes Wellness app, available both in the App Store and Google Play. The links to our website and the app are in the description. And if you're concerned about privacy, we've got you totally covered. The app icon and push notifications say H Wellness. So if someone happens to see your screen, you won't disclose your status unintentionally. And if you're enjoying the podcast or if you have something you'd like to share, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you the next time on the Herpes Wellness Podcast. Bye for now.